Welcome everyone, and welcome to this ZestCast today. I'm Rachel McGuinness, the founder of Wake Up with Zest and the Zest Wellbeing Hub. And today we are interviewing Joe Forshaw, who is a solutions-focused hypnotherapist. And he's going to be talking to us about coping with our hunter-gatherer brain. So all very interesting stuff. I love neuroscience. It's absolutely fascinating. And on these ZestCasts, we do actually interview our expert contributors from the Zest Wellbeing Hub and also special guests. And just to let you know that the recording from our last ZestCast with yoga teacher Vicky Bauman is on the Wake Up with Zest YouTube channel, together with all our other ZestCasts. So if everyone could be on mute, that would be absolutely fantastic. There's opportunities to ask questions if you want to, so please unmute yourself or type a question in the chat box, as I'll be monitoring it. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today on our ZestCast. So tell us a bit about you and how you got into hypnotherapy.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me along. It's really nice to be here. Yeah, I got into solution-focused hypnotherapy as a result of doing quite a lot of research into various therapies. After I graduated from doing my psychology degree, I went into criminology, and I was doing a criminology master's, which was very, very, kind of psychology based, and it was really, really interesting. But then I kind of realised that it wasn't really going to take me anywhere, apart from being, kind of interesting at dinner parties. I probably wouldn't have been. It wasn't a career path, put it that way. So I'd always really, really been interested, and I really knew that I wanted to move into therapy eventually. So I done a lot of research, almost started a psychotherapy master's degree at Liverpool University. But when I done like the research into it, I didn't really, personal opinion, I didn't really like what I found. It was, going back over old trauma, and all I heard was how painful it was. It was painful for the therapist. It was painful for the client. The therapist needed therapy. So I thought, no, it's not for me. So I done a lot of research, and I eventually found solution-focused hypnotherapy, which, as you know, is based on solution-focused brief therapy. And it ticked every box for me because it's completely non-invasive. It doesn't go back over old trauma. It doesn't cause the client any extra kind of stress or anxiety. I've had clients, one or two, who haven't really benefited from solution focused, because obviously, like, not everyone does. No therapy is 100%. But when they've left, they haven't been any different from when they walked through the door. It's caused them no extra stress. I have a lot of clients who've tried every other therapy out there, and I'm a kind of last resort, but they get a lot of benefit from solution focused. What we describe solution focused as is it's kind of closure without disclosure. People don't need to tell me the problem. It's not problem focused like a lot of other therapies. If you go to see a counsellor or a psychotherapist, they will ask you what your problem is. That's not a derogatory kind of way of looking at it. It's basically observational. They focus on the problem. They will ask you what your problem is, ask how it made you feel, the circumstances. Again, solution focused sees that as counterproductive. Okay, because taking people back over their old trauma it can be painful. And
scab picking.
Yeah, that's it. One of my favorite mottos is that you can't move on to the next chapter of your life if you're constantly rereading the previous one.
Absolutely, yeah.
And basically that's how solution focused brief therapy and solution focused hypnotherapy look at it. We've got to move forward. We've got to concentrate on solutions. We've got to concentrate on what the client wants to achieve, their best hopes for the future, and it turns the whole concept, the whole perspective in a different way. Instead of being sort of anchored to the past, we can now concentrate on the future. And I've found it's really, really effective. really effective.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I remember when my mum died and I had bereavement counselling, and in between sessions, between seeing my counsellor, all I focused on was all the negative things that happened.
Yeah.
And I was like in this negative state the whole time. So
Yeah.
what you offer is just completely different.
It is. I've as I say, a lot of my clients have tried all the therapies out there, and quite a lot of them don't get that any benefit from it. So in some respects, they can be described as no pain, no gain. You know, the fantastic therapies, but if you don't get you've got to go through the pain to get the gain. Now, if you don't get the gain, then it's all pain, like a lot of my clients have been. There's one of my clients on my website, you can find a testimonial from him. He was suffering from like acute depression and various things for over 30 years. He'd seen every psychotherapist, every counsellor. He'd even been seeing one of the top psychiatrists in the country, and he'd had no benefit for 30 years. After 8 sessions, solution focused, he made fantastic progress. And I say you can see his testimonial on the website. So
yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So I say in my experience, it's extremely effective, and it's relatively quick. It works relatively quickly compared to some therapies. Usually between, some people get benefit in as little as 6 sessions. Yeah. Some people it's a bit more, 8, 10, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
has anybody actually had hypnotherapy before? No. Okay.
Yeah. The form of hypnotherapy that I use, very, very different from what you probably think about hypnotherapy. If I had if I always say, if I had £1 for every time someone said to me, "Can you make me run around like a chicken?" then I'd be very, very rich. The fact is, I can't.
Yeah.
The old kind of image of the evil hypnotist with the swinging pocket watch, making people walk around like zombies, or look into my eyes, don't look around my eyes, look into my eyes. Give me your credit card details and your mother's maiden name. It doesn't happen. Okay. Stage hypnosis is another one. It's nothing like stage hypnosis. Again, I could explain how stage hypnosis works, but it's very, very different from hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is like a hypnotic state with therapy, and it's very, very positive. It's like the word trance is probably one of the most misinterpreted words in the English language, because you think someone's in trance, they're walking around like a zombie. That's not it. Trance is more like a brain state that is like daydream. You're in like a daydream state. That's what it's like. We go from the different brain states: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Well, beta is what we're in now. Well, alpha is like a kind of relaxed, daydreamy state, like a meditative state. And we do it all the time. We do it when we're driving. We do it when we're sitting watching TV sometimes. It's when your mind just wanders. And, quite often you can be driving to work or driving along, and you're driving the car, but you could be lying on a beach somewhere. You could be, out at the weekend with your friends or whatever. But if the brake light's going in front, you'll stop, because your conscious awareness is still there.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of split where your mind's part of your mind's wandering, but the other part of your brain is like there and in control. So I can't do or say anything inappropriate to somebody when they're experiencing hypnotherapy, because the conscious part of the brain will step in and say, no.
So when people say, "Oh, I can't be hypnotized," so that's kind of, is it because they just don't want to let go?
Yeah, well, apparently, some people cannot be hypnotized, and again, it's the jury's out as to why. But most people, if they kind of give into it, if they relax, they will drift off, and it's a really pleasant experience. It's a pleasant experience. Most people will say that they enjoy it. So most of my clients say that the hypnotherapy is the best part. They want to get through the previous, like the early part of the session to get to the hypnotherapy. But it's yeah, it is. It's like it's a nice experience. Yeah.
And you're now working with people online, so people don't have to be in person with you, do they?
No. I started using Zoom prior to the pandemic because I was doing a lot of work with charities, and a lot of the people were living quite a way away, even around the Merseyside area. It was still like 45 minutes, an hour's traveling. So when I found Zoom, when I discovered Zoom, I was delighted. And all the research that's been done is saying that the results and the effects are exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you're sitting across a desk from someone or whether you're looking at them and talking to them on your laptop or your computer. It's exactly the same. So it's fantastic. I'm actually seeing people in New Zealand, America, the South Coast, north of England. There's no geographical boundary anymore. I used to, prior to Zoom, it was probably like a 5 or 10 mile kind of radius that you're restricted to. But now it's amazing. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great. So you're going to explain to us about our hunter-gatherer brain, our ancestral brain. I mean, I love neuroscience because I think it's such a fantastic
it is. It is. It's amazing. It's fantastic. So I don't know whether you can see the whiteboard behind me.
The screen a bit closer, like we did at the beginning.
Yeah. Hope everyone can see that, or get a decent. Just let me put my light on so it's a bit better. Okay, so what that is an explanation of how our brain works. It's like everybody's brain, my brain, your brains, unless you've had some kind of injury, then this is how your brain works. And normally what I do is, it looks a bit old school, they're doing it on, like, writing it on a whiteboard, and it is, but we found it's the best way to do it, because slides and Zoom presentations doesn't really convey the amount of information that is contained in there, because this is like a neuroscientific explanation made very, very simple. It was done with a neuroscientist from Bristol University, and the guy who developed solution-focused hypnotherapy, he wanted to understand how his brain and his client's brain was working. So he went along and he did this, but it's very, very simplified. It's like a lot of analogy in there so that we can understand it, us non-neuroscientists. And what I find is my clients absolutely love it. Once they get a handle on this, they absolutely love it, because it's kind of, like knowledge is power. This is our autonomic nervous system. We can't control it, but we can kind of mitigate against it slightly. We can develop techniques that can help us to understand it, and it demystifies the whole process. So when people are getting those feelings of anxiety and panic, they know where they're coming from, and it demystifies it, and they can sometimes calm themselves down. So I would start this with a blank whiteboard and basically start from scratch. It takes normally about 45 minutes to an hour to do this. So this is a condensed version of the condensed version. It's a really, really condensed version. But what the thing, as far as our hunter-gatherer brain is concerned, what we need to remember is there's two parts of our brain that we can operate from, or two parts of our brain that can influence the way we think and consequently the way we behave. Okay, so the first one is, if this circle is our brain, we're looking down from the top. This is the front, this is the back. This part of our brain is our prefrontal cortex, and it's the part that you would think of as being you. It's your conscious awareness. Okay, it's the part that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Now, this became as developed as it is in evolutionary terms not very long ago, a couple of 100,000 years ago. The jury's still out. We don't know how, and we don't know why it became as developed as it is. Lots of theories. okay? But it happened, and it, in a very, very short space of time, in evolutionary terms, it catapulted us from quite low down on the food chain to the top, because it gave us the ability to think, to plan, to work together, and it enabled us to become the apex species on the planet. There is another part of our brain that we need to look at, and it's this. And this is what we call our limbic system. Now, if this is relatively new in evolutionary terms, this is ancient. Now, this is our hunter-gatherer brain. This can be described as your reptilian brain, your mammalian brain, okay, your hunter-gatherer brain. It's been with us since day one. Evolution has decided this is extremely important. So evolution doesn't keep things that aren't good for your survival or the survival of the species. This has been with us forever, and it's never changed. And it's our fight or flight, the fight or flight area. The centre and most influential part is your amygdala. Now, your amygdala is your fight or flight area, your fight or flight response. It works with your hippocampus, which is like a storeroom of emotional experiences, not so much memories, but emotional experiences. Anything that happens that has got a lot of emotion attached to it is stored as a special place in your hippocampus. Because what happens is that we learn most of our fears. We're only born with 2 fears: loud noises and falling. The rest of them we learn. We learn to be scared or careful of fire, crossing the road, all these things, and they're all stored in your hippocampus. Your hippocampus use them as templates, as examples for the future to keep you safe. Your hypothalamus is responsible for all the neurochemicals that get released in your system. So your cortisol, adrenaline, serotonin, all your positive neurochemicals, the likes of like serotonin, oxytocin. Now, the way this works is that if you have an anxiety-inducing situation, and if you bumped into this person here, I'm sure he'd make you anxious. If you're going for a walk and you bumped into a tiger, okay, your anxiety would spike, your heart rate would increase, your stomach would churn, okay, and you'd be out of there like a shot. But in today's world that we live in, the things that cause our anxiety are not necessarily wild animals like it would have been with our hunter-gatherer ancestors. It can be, credit card bills, it can be job situation, it can be your relationships. But this part of your brain, your hunter-gatherer part of your brain, doesn't know the difference. It still thinks we're hunter-gatherers. It still thinks every anxiety-inducing situation is a wild animal. Now, that is completely inappropriate for the things that we experience today. And that, for me, that's the irony. The irony is that what happens is that when your primitive brain kicks in, when you're in fight or flight, this ancient part of your brain pulls rank on your rational, conscious part of your brain and actually closes it down. Because evolution has decided in a situation where you need to escape a life-threatening situation, you don't need to be analytical. You don't need to be logical. You just need to get out of there. Now, we respond now to, I get a lot of people coming to see me because of they're having problems with doing presentations and public speaking. Okay. Now, when you're doing public speaking or presentation, you need this part of your brain. That's the most important part. But this, when you feel that anxiety, this actually thinks, okay, it's a life-threatening situation. This gets closed down. Now, that's the irony. The part that we need most gets closed down. See what I mean? Now, again, very, very quickly, when this part of your brain takes over, we respond in 3 ways, and 3 ways only. It's anger, anxiety, and depression. They are hardwired defense mechanisms. They're hardwired ways of keeping ourselves safe. Now, it doesn't look that way because it looks as though They're issues, aren't they? They're problems. But anger is an evolutionary primitive way of increasing your strength. Everyone, when people get angry, they do increase the strength, and it's just to give you the ability to fight the threat. It gives you an advantage in fighting the threat. Anxiety is it's that hypervigilance, because if we lived in that the environment our hunter-gatherer ancestors lived in, then we really need to be on our toes, wouldn't we? You know, you've got to be on red alert. Up this part of the country, we've got Knowsley Safari Park, and down south you've got Longleat.
Oh right, yes.
Yeah. So that's where our ancestors lived.
Yeah.
So if you were going to take us and put us in the middle of Longleat now and tell us like the exit's half an hour in that direction, we're going to be pretty vigilant on the way out, aren't we, knowing what's in there, you know. And depression is an interesting one, because depression is people say, how can that be in any way be useful to us? Depression's awful. Well, our ancestors, say for example, one of our ancestors, archetypal cave dweller, looks out the cave in the morning and he sees or she sees a snow blizzard, and they can't go out to hunt or gather food. Well, that was usually bad news. It could have been a death sentence for them. So what they would have done, they would have done nothing. They would have stayed in the cave, stayed warm, they wouldn't have interacted, and they probably would have slept. They would have went into a kind of mini hibernation until the threat, and then they wouldn't change until the threat outside had gone. But if you think about it, that's modern day depression. We stop going out, we stop interacting, we sleep, in the hope that when we wake up, our threats have gone. But more often than not nowadays, they're not. This part of your brain, if that's not bad enough, this part of your brain will always make you negative. Because in a situation where your life's in danger, it doesn't take chances. It will tell you, it will give you the way, it will say to you that this is going to be the end for you unless you run away, unless you escape. Okay, it's going to be curtains. Now, when we're in fight or flight, we will see every situation like that as the most negative. Every situation we're in, whether it's thinking about our job situation, our money situation, relationship situation, it will make you see the worst possible perspective. It's obsessional. It will make you check. If it thinks that there's a threat in your environment, it will make you check for the threat, check where the threat, check. And that's how we can develop OCD. That's how people, in an effort to calm these kind of signals down, they will develop ways of checking. And that's why people check light switches, doors, locks, windows, all that kind of thing. As we said before, it's vigilant, hypervigilant. It will make you scan your environment for threats, and it will magnify threats that aren't there and invent threats that aren't there. So it's that kind of hyper alert situation that it puts us in. Now it's habitual. So what happens is when it detects anxiety, it thinks that your life's in danger. So it will be giving you those kind of messages. Do something, take action, do something. Well, as I say, the situations nowadays, they're not always, the threat isn't always physical. It's not always apparent. Sometimes we don't even know where the anxiety is coming from. We know we're anxious, but we're not really sure. This will continue to say, do something, take action. So people will come up with coping mechanisms. They will come up with ways of distracting themselves. And if people come up with a way of distracting themselves, especially if it's something that they like doing, like, I don't know, drinking, it can be gambling, it can be spending money, it can be eating, that will be that distraction that kind of reduces their anxiety. But when they stop that activity, the anxiety comes back. This will kick in again and say, the anxiety's back, do something, do what you done yesterday, because that worked. So you will get that compulsion to do that activity again. And that's how you can see how, habits and addictions can start. Now, I know we're kind of short on time, so what I'll say is that the majority of our anxiety is not like wild animals. The majority of our anxiety comes from our own thinking, our own negative thinking. And we can negatively think about the past. We can negatively think about the future. And we can create anxiety for ourselves in that respect. But one of the things that we've got to remember is that your amygdala, your fight or flight area, okay, doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when you're thinking negatively, it thinks you're acting negatively. And it's got no concept of time. So you can be thinking about something that happened 2 years ago, and this thinks it's happening now. And a way to prove that to yourself is you could sit on your settee and you could make yourself happy by thinking about something that happened 2 years ago or whatever. You can make yourself cry, and you can make yourself angry, because what we think becomes what we feel, and what we feel becomes how we behave or how we respond. And it's all down to the fact that your amygdala doesn't understand the difference between imagination and reality. Okay, so we can create so much anxiety for ourselves, and it's all stored. Your anxiety is all stored. Again, the analogy is a stress bucket. Obviously it's a very, very complicated system in your brain, but we just call it a stress bucket. All your stress is stored. Your stress is cleared by REM, rapid eye movement sleep. So when you go to sleep overnight, your subconscious will actually analyze the contents of your stress bucket, put them in perspective for you, and kind of it turns them into a dream. But quite often you can go to bed worrying about something. The next day you wake up and you might have forgotten about it, or you might think, it wasn't that bad after all. And this is where we get the saying, sleep on it, be okay in the morning. See what I mean? So REM will only stay, your brain will only stay in REM for about 20% of your sleep cycle, because it's working very, very hard. Even though you're asleep, it's working really hard. It's about 4.5 times, between 4 and 5 times harder than doing a maths exam. So it's not going to stay in REM for very long, about 20% of your sleep cycle. Any more than that, and it'll wake you up. And if you're anything like me, I wake up, if I've got something on my mind, I will wake up 3:30, bang on 3:30. I don't even need to look at my watch. It's 3:30. And what happens is you wake up wide awake, and it's different from when, say, like a car alarm goes off outside and that wakes you up. When you woke up to REM, bingo, you're awake straight away. Then you can't get back to sleep. If you're like me, you'll fall asleep about half an hour before the alarm goes off. You wake up, you're stressed, you're tired, your stressful day starts again, and you're in a big downward spiral. Okay, so the way solution-focused hypnotherapy approaches this is that first and foremost, we try and stop the amount that you're putting in your stress bucket. Okay, and I'll just quickly explain that in a moment, how we do that. Okay, the other way we do it is we listen to, I send my clients a download. It's a relaxation download. It's a hypnotherapy track, and we listen to that overnight. Use it as a sleep aid, really. You go to sleep and listen to it while you're asleep, because it works on the subconscious part of your brain. It's not working on this part, and it supplements your REM. So you're getting you're getting a pincer movement now on the contents of your stress bucket, your own REM and the supplementary REM from the download, and that will improve your sleep pattern. Usually people seeing improvements in the sleep pattern in about five days to a week, and then it gets better and better. So you're sleeping better, you're feeling better, and sleep's very important. I talk a lot about sleep in the sessions, but the way that we kind of counteract this negative cycle is what we call the 3 Ps: positive activity, positive interaction, and positive thinking. And positive activity can be, well, anything really. It can be obviously exercise, but it doesn't need to be an hour in the gym. It can be doing the garden. It doesn't need to be a 5-mile run. It can be a walk in the park. Anything at all, anything positive, DIY, clearing out the garage, clearing out cupboards, tidying up, and anything at all. And positive interaction. Positive interaction is extremely important. The we are designed to operate as a group, as a tribe. We're not very good on our own. Have you ever seen the film Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he draws a face on the ball, calls it Wilson? That's how that's how much we need human contact. Solitary confinement is one of the worst things that you can inflict on somebody. So we are designed to work together, and we do it better than any other species. And the other one is positive thinking. Now, positive thinking, some people, when I say that, they think, oh, there we go, the hippie, happy clappy, let's all be positive. But the fact is that because this doesn't understand the difference between imagination and reality, when you think positively, it thinks you're behaving positively, so it will respond accordingly. Instead of giving you the cortisol and adrenaline that from your fight or flight response, it will give you the positive neurochemicals like serotonin, like dopamine and oxytocin. So it's very, very important to remember. Logical thinking will kind of counteract that negative downward spiral. So we've got to try to, the two extremes that we can operate from is obviously anxiety, where you're getting cortisol and adrenaline in your system, and the other one is depression, where you're getting hardly anything. So we need to operate in between those two, and when we do, we usually got a steady flow of serotonin, and we can operate at our best. We can be on our A game, if you like. So again, I understand that was like a rapid tour through the neuroscience of our brain. Apologies if it was too quick, but again, hope you got the kind of gist of it. Again, the hunter-gatherer part of our brain is there. It's not going anywhere. It's been there for hundreds of thousands of years, and we've got to learn to live with it. But if we understand it's there, we understand how it works, it gives us an advantage, a great advantage into dealing with it. So
how does it affect our behaviours today, and maybe sort of touching on the COVID crisis, the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, as I say, this part of your brain does not understand what is causing your anxiety. It doesn't differentiate between a wild animal and the pandemic. Well, one of the things that I always say, especially to my clients, is that one thing we need is control. We all need control in our lives, and if we lose control, it causes us a great deal of anxiety. Okay, we're hardwired to need control, and what the pandemic did, what COVID did, it kind of took control away on a kind of macro level. We can all lose control individually, but what happened is that this pandemic came, and kind of even people who were confident in where they were in life with the let's say businesses and things like that, on those nice steady train tracks going forward, COVID came and knocked us mostly, well, the 99% was completely off. And we were lost. People who were really, really confident had suddenly lost control. And not only that, it looked as though governments and the powers that be had lost control. Nothing more terrifying. Everybody thought, it's the end of the world. Could this be the end of the world? Could this be end of? And it was terrifying. But on an individual basis, we all react the same. We all go into fight or flight. We all see things on the most negative level. Oh yeah, it is going to be the end of the world. No, when you operate from here, you've got a far better chance of dealing with any situation. Any situation at all. This part of your brain will always do like a cost-benefit analysis. It will do an assessment of any situation that you find yourself in. This doesn't. This just tells you it's going to be the most negative. And that's the way it's hardwired to work. So the pandemic knocked us all, or the vast majority of us, right into our primitive hunter-gatherer brains, and we all thought it was, the end of the world. We were all shocked to our soles of our feet. So But again, I think that's the thing to remember, is that this doesn't understand the difference between a life-threatening situation and something that we could possibly deal with, even if it mightn't be, mightn't be ideal, but we can deal with it if we deal with it rationally and logically. So.
Oh, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I just love your diagrams. I think it's brilliant, and I love your picture of the saber-tooth tiger. I'm going to steal that.
I always say, I don't know what would scare me more, bumping into a real tiger or bumping into a tiger that looked like that one. He is quite hideous, isn't he?
Has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask Joe? And while you're thinking about it, I've passed on quite a few people that organisations I work with. If I haven't been able to help them, I've passed them on to Joe. So he's a good referral system. And actually, you've worked with all sorts of different people. Worked with bereavement. So what would you say is your kind of top topics that you sort of deal with?
Yeah, I'd say I can deal with things like bereavement. I can deal with phobias, but I think, and again, I think it's especially over the last 12 months, I think it's more to do with the situation with COVID. It's anxiety, depression, stress, people, and especially I'm seeing a lot more young people, in the 20s.
Really?
In the 20s and 30s. It's and I think that's because the pandemic, kind of it shocked people into the, thinking about the long-term future. When you're 20s, you don't, quite often you don't think that far ahead of it. I didn't anyway. But this kind of, has kind of brought that into focus for a lot of younger people. And they're worrying about the jobs, they're worrying about the future, and it's more a kind of anxiety, depression, stress issues that I'm dealing with now at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Just come back in the room. So does anybody want to ask Joe anything? Well, I'll put his details in the chat. So it's Joe Forshaw, hypnotherapy.com.
Yeah.
So people can get in touch with you via your website, and your email is Joe at
Joe Forshaw. Yeah, hypnotherapy.com.
So if you're watching the recording, there will be a slide up right now. So you've given us your 3 tips because I always say to people, can we have 3 tips for people to take away with? So, you mentioned breath work.
Breath work, very, very important.
You're a great fan of breathing.
Yeah. Breath work is extremely important. This kind of explanation is touching upon the autonomic nervous system, which is like basically, I say, we've got no control over it. It's autonomous. It's autonomous from us. But we can actually, when we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is this, your fight or flight, and we've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which it's termed as rest and digest. That's when you're relaxed, and we can kind of, breath work can move us from fight or flight into rest and digest, because when you are in fight or flight, you find that you because you've got adrenaline going around your system, your heart's beating fast, you have this like kind of shallow breathing, that you'd need if you were going to fight or run away. What you can do with breath work is you can calm that down. You can slow your breathing down, and it kind of fools your autonomic nervous system into thinking that you're not in fight or flight, that you're actually in rest and digest. You see what I mean? And there's lots and lots of different
I was going to say, what are your top breathing exercises?
Yeah, I would say there's one where you breathe in breathe in for 3 or 4 seconds, hold for a few seconds. I never say 4 or 5 because everyone's different. Some people would, be uncomfortable holding the breath for a certain amount of time, but breathe in for a few seconds, hold for a few seconds, and then breathe out for a few seconds. But try to make the out breath a little bit longer. And then hold again, and then just do that a few times. There's another one, a technique called box breathing, which is 3, 3, 3, 3, or 4, 4, 4. Some people, I've seen some techniques where it says, and breathe out for 7 seconds. I've never been able to breathe out for 7 seconds. I start going dizzy. So box breathing,
Tracy says, box breathing is her favorite.
It is.
It's funny because I didn't like that one, but I've got into it and I do actually find it quite useful. Especially if you can't sleep, or the 4-7-8 technique, which is breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8, but it's to counts rather than seconds.
Definitely.
And then you're just breathing in and out up to 10 nice and slowly. I find sometimes that's a trick. But so there's so much around breath work, and of course our autonomous nervous system. So that's really basically our heart rate, our breathing. So all these automatic things that are happening that just happen and we don't.
You have no control over.
Exactly.
I think the way we talk about the conscious part of your brain and the subconscious, it's like an iceberg. The little bit that we see popping over over the surface is our conscious part. The rest of it is going on under the surface. Another way to look at it is somebody riding an elephant, a man or a woman riding an elephant, and you think you're in control of the elephant until the elephant decides that you're not. So when you go into fight or flight, that just completely ignores you and just does its own thing. So so the autonomic, as I say, the autonomic nervous system is kind of split into 2. It's your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. So we always want to try and be in our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest.
But the sympathetic does help us, doesn't it? It's what gets us up in the morning. Because it's there for a reason as well as keeping us safe.
Of course. And as I say, we wouldn't have survived as a species without it. That's why evolution has decided it's so important. But again, we just got to realise that it's there, and the way it behaves nowadays is quite often inappropriate for the situations we find ourselves in. As I say, because we've evolved over the last something like 10,000 years from hunter-gatherers, which is drop in the ocean in evolutionary terms. From hunter-gatherers living in Longleat, living in Mowgli Safari Park, to living in houses. We've got AK-47s and cars and putting people on the moon, and but this part of your brain doesn't understand that. It still thinks we live in Longleat, and that's how it makes us behave.
And what's your second tip? So we have number 1 is breathing.
Yeah, what was the second tip?
It was getting outdoors.
Oh, outdoors. Yeah, very important. We all know that being outdoors is really good for us. But there's real scientific reasons behind that, and the 2 that I always I like most is one is a visual thing, and it's the likes of if you're out in the park, even in your own garden or your own houseplants. If you look at them, they've got a kind of pattern to them, and these patterns are called fractals, and they kind of recurring patterns, and you can see it everywhere in nature. You see it in the clouds. You see it in the sea, at the seaside, with the coastline, with the waves, rivers. We look at these fractals, and they have an amazingly calming effect on our brain. They can reduce your anxiety by between 40 and 60%.
Wow!
By looking at these fractals, and you can get the same benefit from looking at a video. You don't have to be outside, but you get it from your garden, your houseplants. Being outside in the park, being at the seaside. I think the seaside is a double effect, because you get the clouds and you get the sea, where the horizon. So it's a fantastic effect. But you can also get it. You can have a look on Google and find, or YouTube, and find fractal meditations. where you can actually look at these
right.
designs, and they just revolve, and it's really, really calming. The other aspect of being out in the countryside or your garden is what we call phytoncides, and this is a chemical that is given off by plants, and we pick up on this chemical, and it actually has it has like an effect on us, and it can reduce cortisol in our system, so that can have an effect on our anxiety. That can reduce our levels of anxiety. So you're getting that double effect but you've got to do it for 20 minutes. Like the research says, 20 minutes or more for the best, effect.
And any particular time of day? Is lunchtime best when sunlight is strongest, or any time?
Anytime. First thing in the morning, and again, just your garden. Get out in the garden. Get the fractals and the phytoncides from your own garden.
So they call it green spaces, the countryside, and blue spaces is water. So whether it's the sea, lakes, rivers.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I say it's why we always feel better after we've been for a walk in the park or been out in the garden.
Yeah.
And
I've just moved house, and I've now got a house with garden instead of in a flat with a balcony that didn't really have a great view, and it's so much nicer. Listening to bird song it's just so therapeutic in the morning. You might hear the birds tweeting at the moment, or the rain on the roof of my studio. And what was the third thing, your third tip? Was something about positive activity?
It was positive activity, As I say, it's like I mentioned before, positive activity has such a beneficial effect. We're hardwired to behave like that. We're hardwired to do positive things. It's part of our human experience. And it gives us serotonin that will produce that neurochemical serotonin. The three neurochemicals, hormones that are kind of most beneficial for us. Well, three of the most is serotonin, which you will get from positive activity more so than anything else. Oxytocin is from positive interaction. Now, oxytocin is our bonding chemical. When you give your partner or a family member or a friend even a hug, that nice warm fuzzy feeling you get is oxytocin. It's our bonding chemical. And the other one is dopamine.
Oh yes.
So dopamine. That's our reward chemical. But dopamine is a bit of a double-edged sword, really.
It is.
Because you can get dopamine from positive habits and routines. You can get dopamine from bad ones as well. So you can get like that dopamine, that reward when you're looking forward to going to the gym. Oh great, I'm going to the gym, great. But you can also get it when you think, you know what, I'll give the gym a miss. I'll go home. I'll go open a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Or I'll have that big bar of chocolate.
Piece of cake, chocolate. Tracy says, could positive activity include affirmations and keeping a gratitude journal?
Definitely. One of the things I always recommend is a gratitude journal. Gratitude is one of the most positive emotions that we can experience. It's a lot more important to us than we ever thought. It's part of our makeup as humans. That altruism and gratitude, it's kept us it's kept us alive as a species, if you like. So a gratitude diary is very, very important. I always kind of recommend keeping a gratitude diary either last thing at night or first thing in the morning. I always say 3 big things, and the 3 big things you can do every night. Your family, your health, if you like, or your whatever it is. 3 big things that are important to you, and they can stay the same, but you just kind of remember them and focus on them each night. And then I always recommend like 3 small things. Just say someone said hello, or someone give you a compliment, or you done something that you got a pat on the back for in work or whatever. Just 3 of those. They all have that positive effect on us.
Yes, I do gratitude diary before I go to sleep. Because it leaves your brain in a positive state, doesn't it? Before you
definitely. As you say, it gives you that kind of that kind of warm feeling, that. Yeah. Another thing I always recommend as well is I don't know if anyone has ever tried it, a vision board. Like,
Yes.
visualization is very important, and the vast majority of people I know who've kept a vision board are amazed at just how effective they can be. We can visualize on our vision board by putting a photograph of maybe a car we want, or a house that we want, a place where we want to live. And you'd be surprised how many people actually say, maybe not immediately, but maybe a couple of years later, that they've actually achieved what it is that's on the vision board. But there's a neuroscientific reason for it. I don't know whether everyone's heard of the book The Secret, the Law of Attraction.
Yeah.
Well, they say visualization, your manifestation, the universe can kind of give you it. It doesn't really work like that, but visualization does work, and it's very, very. There's a real neuroscientific reason for it, and it's called selective attention. So whatever is important to you, your brain will concentrate on. So, say for example, I said, being a man, I'll use a car as an example. I'll say, if I wanted a black BMW, okay, then that black BMW now has become important to me in my thalamus, which is the part of the brain that deals with all the information coming in. That black BMW will become important. So I will start noticing black BMWs. Everywhere I go, I'll see a black BMW. Now, I won't notice a white Mercedes or a silver Lexus as much as I'll notice black BMWs. But your selective attention has got that much information coming in that it has to filter most of the information coming in. It can only concentrate on a small number of things, really. But what's important to you will be one of those things. So it will pick up on information regarding that black BMW. And I might overhear a conversation about a black BMW, or notice a sale on in a car showrooms as I drive past the black BMWs. But all the time, my brain is gathering information on that whatever it is that's important to me, and it's making up like a dossier, and it kind of points you in that direction. So it's kind of steering you towards what it is that you want. And over time, that's how people do kind of end up achieving what they want to achieve on the
so does the vision board have to be a physical vision board, or can you do it say in something like an app like Trello?
Yeah, I suppose you could, as long as you look at it often enough. Yes. So what most people do is they'll put it somewhere where even when they're not actively looking for it, they will see it. So they'll put it on the wall, maybe by the bed. So they'll see it last thing at night and first thing in the morning. And then it's reinforcing that image, lots and lots. Quick example, lots of famous people use vision boards. Oprah Winfrey, so many people. Jim Carrey, the actor, he wrote himself a check, a blank check. And I think I can't remember what year it was. I don't know if it was 2008. He was an unknown actor. And he wrote a check to himself for $12 million. And he, about 4 or 5 years later, he signed a contract for his first film, and I think it was Dumb and Dumber, and it was for $12 million.
Wow.
Now you could say that's coincidence, but there's so many examples of it.
Yeah.
So many examples of that happening. So I
need to write that check.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I must admit, I've tried it. It didn't work for me. I'm never going to be a famous actor. Yeah, but I'd say, yeah, visualization is very important.
Yeah.
And again, for solid neuroscientific reasons. So
is it what they call the reticular activation system?
The RAS, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's amazing how it does work. I mean, the book The Secret, The Law of Attraction. I mean, the argument that the universe will give you it if you ask. I could say, well, I could sit on my settee and try to again, I'll use a car as an example, like a green Aston Martin outside, but no one's going to knock on my door and say, "Go, here's the keys to your green Aston Martin." It's not going to happen, is it? But if you visualize and want something strongly enough, then there's a good chance that you'll get there. So
so we all got to start visualizing.
Visualization, yeah.
Brilliant.
Very, very important.
Yeah. Right. Any final comments or questions? So while you're thinking about that, I'll just go through what we've got coming up next.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this recording will be going on the YouTube channel. Hope to get it on there by Monday next week.
Excellent.
So if you want to find out more about what's coming up with regard to ZestCast, just go to wakeupwithzest.com/speaking. And to just give you a heads up on what we've got coming up, we have got Sally Inkster, who's a brand expert or personal brand expert, coming up on the 27th of May. So that's in 2 weeks' time. So she's going to be talking about why your brand or your personal brand is so important. And 24th of June, we've got men's mental health expert Dave Algio coming back to speak to us. And he spoke to the Zest Wellbeing Hub members back in February. He went down a complete storm. And then on the 8th of July, we're speaking to Lisa Lloyd, who is a psychologist. So we just got to pin down what we're going to be talking about exactly with those two people. And then I'm booking more people in July. So Joe, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I've actually learned some things as well, because I have studied hypnotherapy, but I don't really practice it anymore. And I just like to say to everyone, thank you for attending, and hopefully see you on the next ZestCast. So it just remains to say, have a great rest of the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks to everyone.
Bye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.